Good day, my name is Obina. Welcome to ASA's channel. ASA's channel is an online educational platform that is aimed at helping students understand their courses better. I'll be taking you on the Nigerian people and culture. We'll be looking at the first topic today, which is the advent of the European missionaries in Nigeria. But we can't look at Nigeria as a whole because it is not the beginning of the missionary movement. It was stretched out to look at the West African society at large. The missionary movement to the West African society was three-phased. First phase lasted from the 15th to the 17th century, lasted for up to 350 years. The second phase lasted from the 17th to the 19th century, and the third phase lasted from the 20th century to date. Some will say the 20th century to date, which is the third phase, is the successful phase, which is being continuous. But the other two phases gave rise to this phase that we have today. The reason why the first phase was purely Roman Catholic was very simple. It was because at that particular time, the Protestant church were just getting themselves in European affairs and they were not strong enough to facilitate missionaries at that particular time. The Portuguese actually had reasons why they sent out missionaries to go and evangelize in the West African society. We have the political reason, we have the economic reason, we have the religious reason, and we also have the reason which is to stop the spread of Islam. The economic reason was because of the monopoly of trade by the Islamic people in the northern and Middle Eastern region of Africa. The ability for the European people to actually get their materials from the African side became really hard. So they had to go to other regions to get certain goods such as silk and the rest. We look at the political reason, which can be traced back to the famous Henry the Navigator. Henry the Navigator became the king of Portugal in the early 15th century. He brought up the idea of relating the Portugal regions to other countries in West Africa. Food for thought, the Portuguese were the ones that actually brought up the idea of navigation by sea. If you don't know that, just get to know that today. We also have the religious reasons. The Portuguese actually were passionate about the movement of evangelical ministry, so they had to send out missionaries to bring the gospel of peace to the region of West Africa, sending out their missionaries with letters of indulgence. We also look at the to stop the spread of Islam, which was one of the reasons why the Portuguese sent out missionaries. In the early 15th century, the Christian European prince removed and eradicated the remaining part of the varsities of Muslims in their countries, and they sought to end the spread of Islam by looking to join heads with the West African leaders to eradicate the spread of the Islamic religion. So they had to meet the kings in order for them to lock heads together to stop the spread of Islam through Christian religion. Now we can also look at the pre-colonial administration of the missionary movement in Nigeria. But before looking at the pre-colonial movement in Nigeria, it all started in a country in West Africa which was not Nigeria, but it led to the movement in Nigeria. Now we'll look at the 15th century to the date 1448, which was the date that the missionaries actually came to the country Cape Verde, which was the first country that was being brought the gospel of peace. It didn't actually get any seriousness from there until the first mission was actually built in the year 1553. Cape Verde island of Santiago. That particular mission became the headquarters for most of the Christian missionary activity in West Africa. At that particular time, the missionaries were reluctant to serve because of the availability of resources and personnel. Not until the year 1775 that the first Cape Verdean was actually consecrated a bishop. Yes, it took up to 2 centuries before the African was actually given a post to serve as a bishop in his own country. After all this missionary movement, he decided to go down to Nigeria. Not all the regions of Nigeria, but 2 major regions of Nigeria, which is the Warri Mission and Benin Mission. We also will look at how the modern civilization of Christianity came up to play. Because like I formerly said, the first and second phase were failed phases. So the third phase became the successful phase. And the reason why the third phase was actually successful was because it had a touch of technology and a touch of medical upkeep. We have reasons why the Portuguese actually failed their first and second phase. The reason why they failed their first and second phase were very simple. It was because of language differences, because of climatic problems. While traveling, a lot of missionaries died due to infections from the mosquito bites and the rest, which there was no proper cure for malaria at that time. We also have the missionaries looking down on the cultural leaderships of our African leaders, which resulted in a lot of problems. We also have a problem of communication and the rest. So due to all these particular problems, the missionaries were not able to carry out their evangelism properly, not until the early 17th to the 19th century, where there was modernization of technology, which led to advancement of medicine and the rest. It came on to play when other missions were actually being brought up. There were a lot of missionary movements that were brought up, but the first missionary society that was brought up was the Baptist Church Society, which was followed by the Church Mission Society, followed by other societies just like the Wesleyan Society and also the Scottish Presbyterian Society. And the modernization of Christianity in West Africa came up to play with some certain topics such as slave trade, which some popular people actually spoke against it. People like John Wesley, Hannah More, and Mr. Wilberforce. So we see all these particular people as people who brought up the ideology of Western European missionary movements. Now, because of the modernization of European missionary movement, we also have the ideology of the missionaries looking down on the African lifestyle, which brought a lot of movements against their racist actions. We have a lot of movements such as the Ethiopian movement, the Pentecostal movement, the Messianic movement, and as such. I hope with this lesson you have learned a lot, because I did. If you have any question, you can hit the comment section below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.